hundreds of years. Overwhelmed by the magnitude of what he was about to do, he began to choke as surely as if there was something stuck in his throat. The sensation passed. He was tired and overworked, that was all. Normally, on a demolition project of this scale, he'd be assisted by a team, the workload shared. In this instance, he decided his men could play a peripheral role. There was no need to divide the responsibility, no need to involve his colleagues unnecessarily. Not all of them were as clear-thinking as he was. Not all of them had purged themselves of religious sentiments. He didn't want men with conflicted motivation working alongside him. For 5 days, starting at sunrise, finishing at sunset, he laid every charge, explosives strategically positioned to ensure the structure collapsed inwards, the domes falling neatly on top of themselves. Far from demolition being chaotic, there was order and precision to his craft, and he was proud of his particular skill. This building presented a unique challenge. It wasn't a moral question, but an intellectual test. With a bell tower and 5 golden cupolas, the largest of which was supported on a tabernacle 80 meters high, today's controlled, successful demolition would be a fitting conclusion to his career. After this, he'd been promised an early retirement. There'd even been talk about him receiving the Order of Lenin, payment for a job no one else wanted to do. He shook his head. He shouldn't be here. He shouldn't be doing this. He should have feigned sickness. He should have forced someone else to lay the final charge. This was no job for a hero. But the dangers of avoiding work were far greater, far more real than some superstitious notion that this work might be cursed. He had his family to protect, a wife, a daughter, and he loved them very much. Lazar stood among the crowd, held back from the perimeter of the Church of Sancta Sophia at a precautionary distance of 100 meters, his solemnity contrasting with the excitement and chatter of those around him. He decided that they were the kind of crowd that might have attended a public execution, not out of principle, but just for the spectacle, just for something to do. There was a festive atmosphere, conversations bubbling with anticipation. Children bounced on their fathers' shoulders, impatient for something to happen. The church was not enough for them. The church needed to collapse for them to be entertained. At the front of the barricade, on a specially constructed podium to provide elevation, a film crew were busy setting up tripods and cameras, discussing which angles to best capture the demolition. Particular attention was paid to ensure they caught all 5 cupolas, and there was earnest speculation as to whether the timber domes would smash in the air as they crashed into each other, or not until they hit the ground. It would depend, they reasoned, on the skill of the experts laying the dynamite inside. Lazar wondered if there could be sadness, too, among the crowd. He looked left and right, searching for like-minded souls, the married couple in the distance, both of them silent, their faces drained of color, the elderly woman at the back, her hand in her pocket. She had some item hidden in there, a crucifix, perhaps. Lazar wanted to divide this crowd, to separate the mourners from the revelers. He wanted to stand beside those who appreciated what was about to be lost. A 300-year-old church, named and designed after the Cathedral of Sancta Sophia in Gorky. It had survived civil wars, world wars. The recent bomb damage was a reason to preserve, not to destroy. Lazar had contemptuously read the article published in Pravda claiming structural instability. Such a claim was nothing more than a pretext, a spoonful of false logic to make the deed palatable. The state had ordered the church's destruction, and what was worse, far worse, was that the order had been made in agreement with the Orthodox Church. Both parties to this crime claimed it was a pragmatic decision, not an ideological one. They listed a series of contributing factors: damage by Luftwaffe raids. The interior required elaborate renovations that couldn't be paid for. Furthermore, the land in the heart of the city was needed for a crucial construction project. Everyone in a position of power was in agreement. This church, hardly one of Moscow's finest, should be torn down. Cowardice lay behind the shameful arrangement. The ecclesiastical authorities, having rallied every church congregation behind Stalin during the war, were now an instrument of the state, a ministry of the Kremlin. This demolition was a demonstration of that subjugation. They were blowing it up for no reason other than to prove their humility, an act of self-mutilation to testify that religion was harmless, docile, tamed. It didn't need to be persecuted anymore. Lazar understood the politics of sacrifice. Wasn't it better to lose one church than to lose them all? As a young man, he'd witnessed theological seminaries turned into workers' barracks.